I used to work in a cafe/diner as a waitress. My job is your typical food runner and sometimes bus duty if we are understaffed always. Anyway, one day we had a college group who most were really nice, but one in particular was the clown. He started off with dumb jokes. When I was writing up orders he responded with "food please" or "a cheeseburger without cheese." When asking for drinks he responded with "a nice cup of water with ice at the bottom." With some of his buddies telling him to shut up and waving me an apology. Well, no problem, buddy. You can thank my 7th grade science professor warning us not to lick metal poles when it was cold or it'll stick like in the movies. I went back to fulfill this specific request to the T. I grabbed one of our milkshake tins, gave it a quick rinse and packed ice cubes at the bottom. I crushed some additional ice and added them, allowing the entire thing to form one solid cold clump, and being cold enough, stuck to the wet interior of the tin. I returned triumphantly, plopping down a tin in front of the fool. Water, ice at the bottom as per dear customer's request. At first he was confused as he was the only one with the metal tin, then I hear him silently mutter "Holy sh," but was cut off by the rest of his group, sheer in disbelief that I have conquered his quest. He and the rest of his buddies even took a few pictures of the cup and before leaving slipped me a personal tip as a thank you. Since then, our diner's special was ice at the bottom as a running joke, and everybody new gets a kick out of it when they see it. My mom was an overnight manager at a truck stop. She regularly had to deal with drunks and the obnoxious Sunday morning crowd. There was a man that came in every Sunday morning, very early. No sooner than his order would hit the window he would start yelling loudly, "Is it done yet? Where's my food?" and other rude things. The staff cringed when he walked in. My mom had enough. This particular Sunday, after a very rough Saturday night full of drunks, this man walks in with his usual crew and sits at his usual table. Just like clockwork he started yelling as soon as his ticket hit the window. Mom threw a biscuit on the plate, added a piece of cheese, raw sausage patty, then cracked an egg and added the top part of the biscuit. She took him his order personally, slammed the plate down in front of him and calmly asked him if he wanted his food now or if he wanted it cooked. He never yelled after that day. He became one of the nicest and best tipping customers. So this Kavina is a peculiar breed. She appears to have been involved in a freak accident that removed all common sense/basic understanding from her mind. The title is one of many famous ideas she maintains to this day. What makes her stand out from the crowd is her ability to maintain her opinion even in the face of irrefutable evidence. Here are some of her best. 1. Ireland is a myth. Kavina believes Ireland is made up and a conspiracy theory because potatoes come from the store, not disgusting mud. She is British and we both live in Britain, however I am Irish. I showed her my Irish passport and photos of me in Ireland, yet she still thinks it's photoshopped. 2. 3 months ago I caught Kavina crying. I asked her what's wrong and she said she didn't have long to live. I obviously asked her to elaborate and she said she was giving herself a tattoo with a highlighter and a needle and was told she would get ink poisoning. She ended up going home and wrote a will on her Instagram story. She lived. 3. Kavina had a huge crush on a guy we both knew. She decided to ask him out because, hey, Kevin/Kevins deserve love too. She decided to message him on Instagram so if it backfired she could say her friend sent the message, her words not mine. She accidentally found the wrong account of a guy with the same name. A married guy. Kavina refuses to accept it was the wrong person and messaged them every day until she was blocked. 4. Kavina is terrified that if there is nuclear war the wind might blow the missile the wrong way and hit us, and that the Trident submarines might sail under a country. Yes, she believes that you can go under a country as there isn't anything underneath the land. 5. She refuses to believe that London is in the southeast of England because when she went there the sat-nav pointed forwards. 6. She believes Northern Ireland shares a border with England and when shown proof proclaimed the maps are all drawn wrong. 7. She doesn't understand how sex offenders get caught as they could just lie about their age in court and get away with it. She doesn't know what a birth certificate is and says she never got one. 8. She greeted a French exchange student with bad German and shouted "Speak English or find a new job in France" at a French ice cream man. 9. Kavina is a vegetarian, or so she says, but allows herself to eat pork, chicken and beef as they don't count. She laughed at me when I said gelatin is from cows and is in Haribos and said that Haribos come from factories, dummy. She also doesn't realize cows live after being milked and assumed they cut the cow open and there was just a bit of it called milk. That's all I can think of right now. Thanks for reading and hope you have a nice day. Yesterday, I answered a call and the customer politely complained that her payment did not come out last month or the month before. I dug into her account and found that the previous agent had paused her automatic payments in error. This caused the amount that was now due to be over $600. I braced myself and let her know what happened. Me, so it looks like somehow your automatic payments got stopped in error. Her, laughs, oh, is that what happened? Me, sorry that this happened, it looks like the amount due as of today is just over $600. Her, okay, that is fine. Just put the payment through. It was so nice to have such an understanding and nice person. The best part. Her name was Karen. When I was 16, I had to sit the GCSEs, which are end of secondary school exams in the UK. One of the subjects I chose to take was French, which included an oral exam, a written exam paper and a written piece recalled from memory. The written piece could be promoted with a flashcard. This flashcard could not contain something like more than 30 words on there. Now usually that's fine, because we take the flashcard with our prompts, and put that on the desk. Underneath the paper we would write on would be the entire script that we'd then just trace. This worked pretty well until they cottoned on. So then I realized that they never said anything about pictures or symbols. The entire week before the assessment I pretty much created my own hieroglyphs. If there was a lay in my sentence, I would draw a man in a bed and so on. The whole script was written out for me and I ended up getting a better grade overall in my French than my English. Apparently the next year no pictures or symbols were allowed. Several years ago, I lived in an apartment complex where I was able to pay a little extra to have my own garage right across from my apartment. I worked the late shift at a retail store, so if I hadn't paid for the garage, chances are, I would have had to park across the entire property, 250+ units, every night. So it was worth it. One morning, I was about to leave for work but I noticed a car parked in front of my garage. Obviously I thought this was ridiculous and assumed that maybe someone just ran in real quick to grab something from their apartment and would leave any second. Well, 30 minutes rolled by, so I decide to call the office and report the problem. They say to give it another 30 minutes then they will call a tow truck. I've already called work to let them know I'll be late. The car gets towed, I pull out of the garage, and right as my garage door shuts, I see a very confused young woman looking around. She had just missed the sight of me pulling out of my garage. I think this is hilarious and I roll down my window to see if she will say anything. The short conversation went something like this. Lady, have you seen a red car? Me, no. Where was it parked? Lady, right here. Me, you mean right in front of that garage? Lady, clearly not understanding that I'd implied she'd done something wrong, yes. Me, well, if I had to guess, it probably got towed. Lady, angry. Why would someone have it towed? Me, maybe, and this is just a guess, you shouldn't park in front of someone's garage? Anyway, have a good day. I honestly don't think any of it really sank in, but hopefully she learned a valuable lesson in common sense. In the military, every has a military occupation specialty, cook, infantry, military police, mechanic, etc. Besides your MOS, you sometimes get tasked additional duties. One of those duties is being a driver. Usually, no one wanted to be a driver. All officers in a commanding position have a driver tasked out to drive them around. Usually it's someone low-ranking that the rest of the company won't miss. During my first deployment to Iraq back in 2004, we were assigned to a safe house in the middle of a town. I was working the front gate, where the gate sits on a single rail where the gate slides side to side. We get word that the battalion commander was en route. The convoy stopped at our other safe house first. When they arrived at our location, I opened the gate but the driver of the battalion commander wouldn't enter. I looked at the driver, Private First Class Hermes, and he's just looking at the commander. Let's call him Lieutenant Colonel Einstein. I noticed that LTC Einstein has a full cup of coffee with the lid off in his hand. That's why Private First Class Hermes hadn't moved forward. When LTC Einstein noticed they weren't moving, he looked at Private First Class Hermes and said, "Go." Private First Class Hermes nodded towards his coffee and LTC Einstein just replied with a hurry. So, he did. As soon as he went over the gate rail, the entire HMMWV, military vehicle, jiggled like a fat kid laughing. The coffee went everywhere. And all I heard, in a voice that sounds like Jim Carrey's character in The Cable Guy crossed with the voice of Ernest from all those Ernest movies, "God damn it Hermes." Soon after, Private First Class Hermes was no longer his driver. 10 years ago, a treasure chest valued between $2 to $3 million was hidden in the Rocky Mountains by an eccentric millionaire/antiques collector named Forrest Fenn. He wrote a poem that contained clues on how to find his treasure, and hundreds of thousands of searchers went on the hunt for his treasure. Supposedly it was found earlier this month, and photos of the chest were released yesterday that seems to back up the fact it was real. However, the actual solve for the poem/riddle has not been revealed, even by Forrest Fenn himself, so the location of the treasure find remains a mystery. Saying that, this video was just put up yesterday, the same day the photos came out. So far they've only posted half of their solve, but it seems pretty compelling. Are these the finders? And is this their way of slowly releasing their solve? Thoughts? Customer: Hi, I have an order for an orange dress, but haven't received the order and it was made a week ago. Could you check it? Me: Sure, could I have the order number? C: Oh, I don't have it. M: Internal grown well, could I take the email and postcode? C: Email is long and complicated email, postcode is postcode. M: Okay, just bear with me. Loads of orders come up, including 5 from last week. None of them are for an orange dress. M: Hi there, thanks for holding. So I can see multiple orders for last week, but none of them are for an orange dress. I can also see that a couple of orders were started but not finished. Is it possible that the order didn't go through? C: But I made it. It's a dress, item number. M: None of your orders from the last week have that item. I'm going further back but I'm not seeing it there either. Could it have been made under a different email address? C: No, I only use this one. M: Well, as I can't see this order in the last few weeks, I will need the order number to be able to locate this. C: But I don't have that. Can't you check last month? M: I can, but you advised last week. C: Well, I don't remember. This is ridiculous. M: Just let me explain it from my side. I am searching via your postcode and your email address for last week, as you advised. Your orders from the last few weeks are all showing here and none of them have an orange dress on it. All of those are showing as delivered. You have 2 attempted orders for that same week, but neither of those have gone through. Based on that information, I will need the order number and am unable to assist further without that. C: Well, this is ridiculous. Click. M: Sure, expecting someone to give the information needed to help them is ridiculous. When I, 22F, was about 14 years old, my family and I went to a resort in Antalya, Turkey. The resort was relatively small, and every day there were plenty of activities that involved all of the guests, e.g. pool games, competitions, etc. The restaurant was also cafeteria style so everyone ate together. As a result, basically everyone at the resort knew each other well and by name and became pretty tight-knit after a few days. In particular, there was a middle-aged bald British guy named Danny and his 2 little kids who were about 2 to 4 years old. Everyone at the resort seemed to really love this family as he was a single father who was on vacation with his 2 cute little children, so they became popular pretty quickly. At one point, I was walking back up to my room when I heard another guest at the hotel say my name in the context of volunteering me to help Danny with something. I went to see what was going on and the other guest told me that Danny needed help taking his kids upstairs because they were badly sunburned and he couldn't carry them both at once. However, the other guest was busy with something so he suggested that I should help Danny instead. I didn't really think anything of it so I picked up the little girl and walked with Danny and his son towards the elevator. We eventually got to his hotel room and I tried to drop the girl off by the door but he politely asked me to drop her on the couch. Unfortunately I was naive and too trusting so I thought it wouldn't be a problem for me to just step in and drop her off quickly before I go. Worst case scenario, I could scream and people in the neighboring rooms or hallway would hear me. So I stepped inside and as I dropped Danny's daughter off on the couch, he closed the door and turned the lights off behind me. It was pitch black because my eyes hadn't adjusted yet when I heard him lean in close to my ear and say, "Kids, say hello to your new mommy." I instantly got goosebumps all over and my heart dropped. Whenever I tell this story to anyone they always say that he was probably kidding but I can assure you 100% that he was not. I panicked and started feeling up the wall for the light switch or the door and he could tell that I was trying to leave so he said, "Aren't you going to stay and watch some telly with us?" But I had finally found the doorknob and just made a run for it. I ran downstairs crying and so afraid. When I tried to tell my family, no one would believe that he was being serious or creepy because they had all met him and thought of him as such a sweet, lovely single father. I didn't see him the next day or in the following says so I think he checked out after that. This actually happened when I was in the 6th grade. I was always an avid reader growing up and was quite sheltered by my parents. One time I picked up a book from the school library about a girl my age who had a terminal illness. In the story, she writes her will, and upon reading this I got the idea to write my own will. Before reading the book I didn't know what a will was, nor what it was for. This is fun, I thought, as I got to catalog all my belongings, basically all stuffed animals and books, and choose from my very favorite people who got what. Of course I didn't realize that writing a will wasn't a fun activity for kids and that it actually had some pretty dark implications. After I wrote the will I put it in my diary and effectively forgot about it. A couple weeks later I was playing The Sims 3 on my box PC after school when my mom burst through my door hysterically. This set off alarms because my parents were divorced and she did not live with or visit us. Apparently my mother had snooped through my room and found my will. She confronted me and threatened to put me in counseling. I had to explain that I got the idea from a book and that I was not in fact wanting to die. My dad laughed but she was upset for at least a couple weeks. Was very awkward. TLDR, read a kid's book where a girl writes a will. I decided to write a will for fun. Made my mom think I wanted to die. I work at 90-room hotel close to downtown in my city so I get a lot of walk-ins late at night, mostly locals. Most of the time they are decent but lately I have been getting a lot of guests getting mad at me because I tell them they must check out at normal checkout time, 11 a.m., even though they check in at 3 a.m. I finally found out that the lady that does the night audit on the weekends lets people check in at 3 a.m. and pay for one night but they check out the following day. So they get an extra 12 hours. One guest just got real mad at me today after I told him I'll charge him a half day if he wants to stay for 2 nights considering he's checking in at 3:30 a.m. I've been over these type of guests and my job is pretty secured so I was giving it back to him. He then throws a fat-ass stack of money on the counter. I was impressed and maybe even a little jealous but I had to act cool, and basically. He says money's not the issue. I'm internally asking myself why he's so hurt then, but just shrug it off. After him having a fit for a little while and me not budging. He's like whatever bro, just do it for the one night. So I make him the reason. Checking out later today we're still throwing light verbal jabs back and forth. And right after he swipes the card he decides he doesn't want the room anymore, upside down face, brew. So I cancel the reason since I haven't checked him in yet. And now he wants a receipt showing that the charge was reversed. I say listen honestly I have no idea how to print a receipt like that. I've only been using this hotel system for a couple months and really have no idea if it's possible. But I can show you on the computer that auth was reversed and you'll see the charge on your card reversed within 3 days and you got money right, so that shouldn't hurt you. He says man I don't trust you, so if you can't get me a receipt I'm gonna have to stay for the one night. Rolling eyes face, so I checked him back in. If he has 2 authorizations on his card it's not my fault. These are rough times, man. I just been reading this ultra sad story online about how this person didn't call their mom back and then something happened and they never got the chance to tell their mom they loved them one last time. NGL, I ugly cried. Anyway, I called my mom and was like I just need you to know how much I love you. You're not a perfect person, but you did your best, and it's important to me to make sure you know how much I respect and appreciate you. She thanked me, but then she kept asking why I needed to tell her that. I felt lame about it being inspired by a sappy article online, so I just dodged it and gave her some non-committal in case something happens tomorrow and I never get the chance to tell you. I wanted to make sure you knew. I didn't realize that with my past history of depression that would sound like a goodbye call for someone getting ready to off themselves. I got a call about a half hour later from my sister telling me that my mom had called her crying because she thought I was going to kill myself and she's a country away so she won't be able to get to me in time. Oof, my poor mom. I called her back and then emailed the story to her. It took an hour's worth of assuring her that I just missed her and really did just want to tell her that I loved her because, you know, shoot's a little nutty right now and who knows what the next Jumanji plot twist will be. It's all smoothed over now, but I feel really bad for making her worry. I done goofed. TLDR, I called to tell her that I loved her without context and she took it to mean that I was suicidal. After 3 months of working from home, a user just now put in a service request for my team to help her with Zoom. She claimed it's just not working. I don't think I have it installed. 3 months of working from home with bi-weekly web meetings, but somehow Zoom isn't installed? Color me intrigued. This morning, I set up a remote session with this user and found that Zoom was not only installed and configured, the user had no idea what a webcam was. Lovely. I opened Zoom and told her she was set for her 11 a.m. meeting. All she needed to do was make sure her audio was working. This is what followed. User, I heard the ringtone, But when I test the microphone, I do not get a replay. ME, do you have a webcam? User, heck, I don't know. Lol. ME, do you see yourself in the meeting, or do you have a little camera sitting on top of your monitor? If not, you won't be able to speak in the meeting. User, I do not have a little camera and I do not see myself in the meeting. Lol. Me, saddened by all of this, okay then. We can get you a webcam. I'll put in a ticket for that. Me, shaking my head, wonders how long she thought she was participating in Zoom meetings by speaking directly to her desktop PC. I was working at an MSP with a level 1 help desk. I was the service delivery manager and one of my duties was to review tickets before closing them, especially for our biggest client. This client had multiple offices and occasionally a group of users would travel to another office and do some work there. The PCs there were just remote to their main machine back at their desks. I was reviewing a ticket a user put in about not being able to remote to their other computer. The technician's notes were pretty standard troubleshooting stuff, and then I read this line. It was at this point the user informed me they had shut their other computer off before they left. They said they didn't think it needed to be on to remote to it. I laughed for 5 straight minutes. We manage a domain for a customer. AD, Server 2019. Exchange E3 Online, directory sync set up. Routine, you'd think. On Monday, one of the staff rang, their credentials were compromised, could we please reset them for them? Technician 2 dealt with the call, and did so. And of course, as ever, user must change password on next logon. Q today, Thursday, another call from the customer. Customer, I can't log in. Technician 1 goes to reset their password on the domain for them. Technician 2 reminds Technician 1 that they had reset the password on Monday. Technician 1, I have just been informed by Technician 2 that you had them reset the password on Monday, is that correct? Customer, oh, shall I use the new one? Technician 2, yes, you should. Customer, enters current password /. Customer, that worked, brilliant. Technician 2, anything else I can help you with? Customer, can you put this down as trouble accessing files instead of forgot new password on the invoice please? I will not live this one down in the office. I will begin this post with some backstory. My friend was moving, and I helped him. Among other things, he gave me some miscellaneous canned foods he didn't want as compensation for assisting him in the move. One of those cans was a can of sardines and mustard sauce. I had never tried sardines before, more out of disinterest than anything else. So I get home from my second shift work and she is sleeping soundly. I have recently had some good things happen so I decide to celebrate by having a few beers, and want some sort of savory snack to enjoy along with the brews. The sardines immediately come to mind. I open the can, and try one of the fish. I am pleasantly surprised, it goes great with the beer. I decided to share this discovery with my wife, who is asleep peacefully. She is not a particularly adventurous nor picky eater, somewhere in the middle. She usually enjoys things I have her try. Not this time though. Try this, I say enthusiastically. Half asleep, she opens her mouth, and I give her a small piece of sardine. She immediately sits up, gasps in terror, and proceeds to spit out the sardine onto the blankets. After realizing what just transpired and calming down, she gets up to wash her mouth out and throw the blanket into the dirty laundry. Racked with guilt, I decide to sit in the other room and watch YouTube until she could return to her peaceful slumber. DL, doctor fed my wife a bit of sardine, she was intensely repulsed by it and had her sleep disrupted. This story took place some 45 years ago when I was an entry-level engineer in a municipal government in southeast Alaska. Some events might be just a little bit hazy by now. The secretary for the finance director, call her Dragon Lady, would keep several shopping bags of snacks against the wall behind her desk. Anybody checking in to see the director would stop at her desk and could almost see to the bottom of her hoard. The rest of the finance staff thought this wasn't very professional and got the building maintenance people to install several small, individually lockable, cupboards in the lunchroom with the hopes that she would move her hoard into one of them. Despite hints, her stuff remained on the floor for over 2 weeks. Now I worked out in the field as the only inspector on a 6-block square urban renewal project, so was seldom in the municipal building during normal working hours. I was working 6 12-hour shifts per week. On one of my rare days in the building during working hours, one of the finance employees happened to mention the problem to me and I said let me work on it and see what I can come up with. After I got off work, I stopped at the grocery store and picked up a small bag of minute rice. I went home, put a few teaspoons in a plastic bag with a few drops of India ink and shook it until the rice was coated evenly with a nice black coat of ink. After I had my supper I went to the office, got a new pencil and craft knife, then fashioned the eraser into a rubber stamp of a mouse footprint. I flipped open her stamp pad, coated the eraser with ink, and proceeded to stamp footprints across her desktop calendar. The next step was to put the minute rice mouse droppings across her desk. To complete the effect I straightened out one leg of a paper clip and attacked the brown grocery store bags on the floor. Using a scratching motion I gnawed a mouse-sized hole in several of the bags. To complete the effect I gnawed through the wrapper of a Snickers bar and left tooth marks in the chocolate, then went home. I had a staff meeting the next day, so found out that when Dragon Lady got to her desk and saw the results of my work, her cache was moved in less than 15 minutes. She wanted to call in exterminators to eliminate the infestation, and I got a lot of attaboys. When I was young, maybe 3rd grade, our road was hit with a spat of mailbox vandalizing. We lived in a rural area and teenage boys would drive down the road, leaning out of cars and using a baseball bat to bash in mailboxes as they drove by. Now, I'm talking miles of state highway, starting just outside of the city limits of the town seat and continuing almost to the county line. People were irritated. Mail wasn't getting delivered. This was happening every weekend, and nothing was being done about it because rumors had it that boys belonged to some powerful local families. After repairing or replacing our mailbox 3 or 4 times, my dad hit upon a plan. Now, my dad is not someone to mess with. 6'3", 225 pounds, worked our farm, worked a factory job. At one time he was the only person in the company to know the formula for a very expensive, very specific paint for a NASCAR driver. Coached every sport my brother and I played softball and basketball himself when he could find a few spare hours. He's not someone I would mess with today, and he definitely wasn't 30 years ago when this happened. Anyway, Dad got some 1/4 iron plates and welded together the prettiest mailbox you've ever seen. It looked almost like a birdhouse. Painted it black, hung it from an ornate iron post cemented into the ground. It hung from chains, so it didn't seem as heavy as it actually was, thus the need for the cemented post. Stenciled the name and address prettily on the side. He hung it up on Monday. On Friday night, he sat outside after dark and just waited. He heard them coming. The boys weren't quiet about their activities, and he could hear the thuds and pings as they hit the neighbors' boxes along the road. Then, disaster. The sound the aluminum bat made when it made contact with the iron mailbox was legendary. It sounded like a gong. The scream from the boy holding the bat was almost enough to make my dad feel bad, he said later. The tires screeched, the car turned around and headed for town. Dad found a badly dented bat by the road the next morning, and one boy showed up with a broken wrist the next week at school. They stopped destroying mailboxes after that, though. That mailbox still exists, too, rusty and worn but still usable. So this was a very short but memorable call. I work for ISP and I had a call from a customer, nice guy and all, gave me his verification and then started to say that he has always such high bills from making phone calls to his family in another country. I looked it up and sure enough he was paying between 100 and 150 per month for his bill. Normal cost would be like 30, so he paid at least €70 extra for calls. I was like, oh okay, but we have a flat rate for international calls to X country, it's only €10. He answers with but could you make it 5? I could not since this is a fixed price, and I explained that to him but tried to tell him that well, 10 is better than 70, but he just said no thanks, then I don't want it and hung up. I had to take a few seconds there and tell the others about it. It was a Saturday and everything was kinda slow. And we are to this day dumbfounded why the fork he would rather pay every minute instead of just accepting the expensive flat rate. I wasn't even mad because he was perfectly nice and all, but still. I work at a logistics company, and one of my tasks is the call center. One day, end of the shift, I answer the phone to an extremely anxious lady, saying that one of our drivers just broke into her house, stole from her, and then got away in one of our vans. OFC, I was stunned, and asked for further information to confirm if it was actually your van. She proceeds to describe the van perfectly and even says the name of the driver, but didn't memorize the license plate. I found this very weird. How would she know his name? He breaks into her house and goes, Jake, and this is a robbery? And saw the van enough time to describe it perfectly, but didn't get the license plate? Either way, I collect her name, number and the description of the event, and I transfer this info to our transports department. Fast forward a few days later, And I go by the transports department manager and I remember to ask him how this story ended. Turns out, this lady had done this before. She's the mother of the driver. They've been having a dispute for a few years and she has tried to make him lose his job more than once. DL, doctor, woman calls to complain about one of our drivers that had broken into her house and robbed her. Turns out to be the driver's mother trying to make him lose his job. Edit, stole from her. The prior formulation made it sound like she was kidnapped. Unfortunately, this happened about 5 hours ago and I can't forget about it. I'm a service advisor at a large car dealership and had a customer whose vehicle I put some brakes on and got the AC repaired. Nothing out of the ordinary there, especially with how hot it is. Anyways, we get the car all finished and I call up the customer to let him know we have the car ready for pickup. He shows up about 1 hour later and we are talking about the condition of his car, going over the inspection report and all that good stuff. He starts to tell me that he is going on a road trip tomorrow and I ask where to. He says North Carolina. He made a joke about the car that I don't quite remember and then mumbled something else that I didn't quite hear, but I assumed it was something funny and just laughed and said haha yeah. The moment I stopped laughing my mind put together what he said. My uncle passed away. That turned into one of the most awkward 3 minutes of my life while I waited for the porter to bring his car up so I could go hide in a corner forever. DL, drive. Customer mumbled something. I assumed it was a joke so I laughed. Turns out he said my uncle passed away. I work at a small-town coffee shop that has managed to adapt and stay busy during COVID-19 by utilizing a window for walk-up service. A regular problematic customer, let's call him TJ, is a typical middle-aged man riddled with toxic masculinity. He often makes female employees and customers uncomfortable with his comments. Lately he's been around a lot, being typical TJ. Today he came to our window and ordered a coffee. Cool, nothing out of the ordinary. A co-worker asked him if he would like to tip via our Square register. We normally don't verbally ask customers, but with the current pandemic we are not allowing customers to touch our iPad system. He proceeded to tell her to put 100, and reassured them he wanted to tip that much because he appreciates our hard work and effort and wants to chip in since our business has been a bit slower. Okay, I gave him that and almost have a change of heart about DJ. We both outwardly thank him and he goes on his way. I text my boss about this uncharacteristic interaction with TJ and through their end of the register system she was able to look at the transaction. They noticed that not only was the credit card he used not in his name, but in his boss's name, on their company card. Typical TJ. What a D-bag. I work at a small locally owned store that focuses on fresh meat. Due to COVID restrictions, processing plants can't keep up, and meat prices, especially beef, have skyrocketed, while the price of cows is dirt cheap. As a consumer and someone whose family used to raise and sell cattle, I fully understand how frustrating it is, but there's really nothing we can do about it. Earlier this week our owners got a lovely call from the Attorney General's office because they've received reports that we are price gouging. The most ridiculous part is we could actually be charging much more. Typically retail price is calculated by adding a certain percentage to the wholesale cost. The percentage varies slightly between types of meat and cuts, but for simplicity's sake I'll just say it's a 50% markup. So if we pay $3 a pound, the retail price is $4.50 a pound, so our profit is $1.50. All of our beef had gone up by $3 to $6 a pound, so for that same 3 cut, it's now $6 a pound. We could be charging customers $9 a pound, but instead we kept our profit nearly the same. There had to be a small increase to cover unavoidable loss, trimming fat, gristle, bone, etc. So now that cut is 7.75 to 8. It's pretty basic supply and demand cost changes. I don't believe anyone is price gouging, but if someone is, it's the middleman. I don't expect any negative impact from their investigation, but it's still frustrating. Edited to fix bad math. Hey ya. This is a really short one, it just happened to my mom. So you probably all know about the rule to wear face masks in supermarkets. Well, my mom and I went shopping, but realized that we only had one mask in the car. So my mom went in without me. Because I needed to pick an ice cream, she called me and showed me the different flavors. I was just telling her what to get, when all of a sudden an older-sounding guy tried to get her attention. The following conversation took place. Mom, hold on up. To the guy, yes. Guy, do you have ice cream? Mom, didn't understand him the first 3 times, excuse me? Guy, still very calm and friendly, do you have ice cream? Mom, yeah, I know that ice cream. Why? Guy, well, do you have it here? Mom, oh, I don't know, I don't work here. Guy, oh you don't? Sorry. I just thought you were making new orders. Mom, no, I'm on the phone with my daughter to pick out the ice cream flavor. Guy, oh well sorry, have a nice day. Mom, you too. Both laughed, and I couldn't hold it back either. Like I said, it was only very short, but still funny to us. We'll preface this by saying this isn't the most interesting story, didn't involve someone going ballistic, and was generally just a funny misunderstanding I thought someone would get a kick out of. Years ago, the local church was holding a lunch at a golf club. They typically did these once a year, an excuse to dress up a bit, have a nice lunch and socialize. I didn't really put much thought into what I'd wear since I was more interested in the lunch itself, so I just wore a black shirt, pants, belt and some smart shoes. I figured it was a safe bet for the dress code. Fast forward a bit to the lunch, halfway through I wanted a drink, so I stand up and head to the bar. Before I'm there I feel a slight snag on my sleeve, which I figured was someone's child just trying to get my attention. When I turned, it was a woman in her 60s who said she was sorry but she'd been trying to get my attention and thought I hadn't heard her. Fair enough, so I asked what I could do for her in a friendly manner. She then asked if the pitcher of water for her table could be refilled. It dawned on me pretty quickly when I looked around that what I was wearing was pretty much the dress code for the part-time staff, several of which were young adults around my age at the time. Mostly just people there for the summer. I could have just told her I wasn't actually a member, but didn't want to cause any embarrassment, so I just said certainly and took the pitcher to the bar. I told the man behind the bar table 3 needed a refill. He nodded and took it from me, then looked at me oddly, realizing he didn't actually know who I was. He figured it out pretty quickly and had a laugh about it too, before I gave him my actual order and walked back to my table, hoping the entire time I wasn't seen by table 3. Uneventful overall, but have taken care to avoid dressing like a waiter when I go out to eat now. First time posting, currently a EMS dispatcher for a private ambulance company for 3 years now. We take some calls, however, they're usually seizures, psych, and falls. This one? Probably should have been psych, but unfortunately she wasn't the patient. This call happened in my first year, while I was pretty fresh and didn't understand the power of controlling a call. And #X200B. Me, okay, tell me exactly what happened. CLR, yeah, my mom fell in the other room, you know we have her locked in there right now, but yeah she fell and I think she may have hit her head. Me, okay, are you with her now? CLR, well, you see, she has dementia, and we live in a new home, so she is locked in there. You see, we can't have her wandering because of the bears that are around here. Me, have you gone to check on her yet? CLR, no, I can't unlock her door because she will get out and the bears will get her. Me, can you please go check on the patient? CLR, yeah, I think she might have hit her head, it sounded like she hit the end table, that's what woke me up, but even our big dog, insert large dog brand, is afraid to go outside because there are bears here at this new house. Please send the ambulance but make sure they get in and out quick because the bears will get them. Rinse and repeat for literally every one of the 10 questions involved with a fall. I was essentially working with a third-party caller as she flat out refused to unlock her mother from the room until the EMTs got there, let alone even go look at her. And #X200B. I kid you not, I heard way more about these bears than I ever got out of her regarding her fallen mother. While I may have wanted to bash my head into the desk repeatedly asking her the questions, now I can have a good belly laugh over it. From what I do remember though, Mom was transported alright, and no EMTs were mauled by the darn bears. I'm definitely a hardcore lurker in this sub, but today my hometown got amazing news and I figured I would share it with you guys. On May 30, 2018, Nicole Lacey, the girlfriend of Jared Cook, called 911 and stated that she came home and found him lying in their driveway unconscious. He was flown to Upstate Medical University in Syracuse and diagnosed with extensive head injuries and also suffered a bad cut on his arm. They did not expect him to survive his injuries, and unfortunately on June 3, 2018 he was taken off life support and passed away. Now Antwerp, New York and the surrounding towns up by the Thousand Islands are all quite small. So a lot of word travels in fast. We had a family friend who had called my mother and I guess his girlfriend had told officers that he was working on their roof and must have fallen. Now the first problem with that is, the driveway is about 4 to 5 feet away from the side of the house. For him to have gotten into the driveway, he would have had to jump. Next was, There were actual witnesses to what really happened. And they said that this woman had run him over with her car and continued to drag him. Now, for this investigation to take 2 years for an arrest to be made, I don't know if they didn't speak to police, or what. But most of us knew the story. So today, I finally got to see the justice that we all have been waiting for a little over 2 years later. Lacey was charged with first-degree manslaughter, which under New York law carries a sentence of up to 25 years. Unfortunately, due to New York's wonderful new laws, she was arraigned and let go on her own recognizance. Her first actual court appearance is set for June 30th, and I hope justice really gets served for his family and our friends. Note: I apologize if there's any grammar or other errors. I'm not the best writer. But I just wanted to share this once. Mum F, Mum's friend. So F was trying to apply for a job. Then out of nowhere M gets a call from F. F is panicking. She can't upload her CV from her USB. This being important, M decides to visit F and also brings my brother. I would have gone as I'm the tech support for my family but was busy. So, when you have a storage device failure, you would think it's corrupted or it hasn't been partitioned and it's literally stored as unused space. Unused space can't be used as it hasn't been given an address for the data to be sent to. Now I don't know how this happened or how motivated she was, but the reason why her USB wasn't working was because she forced it into the Ethernet port. Well, after the simple fix she was able to upload her CV. TLDR, USB does not equal Ethernet, RJ45. I got a serving job at a prestigious golf course in my town. While I don't have any previous serving experience, I have extensive customer service experience and I am quite adept with computer software. I got to my job and I thought everything was going great. I picked up on the duties right away, and I was getting some good feedback from my coworkers and customers. I made a couple mistakes because I'm human, but these were minor in my eyes, like needing to bring salt to a table. A few hours ago, I got a call from my manager telling me that they had to terminate me. He apologized and told me that he was only told to terminate me today. I asked why, and he told me I was lacking confidence and seemed nervous around the members. He also told me that while I am a great person with great serving potential, I wasn't living up to their expectations. I took it well, but this crushed me. I am professional. I arrived to work 20 minutes early every day. I looked put together and abided by every rule in the employee manual. He told me that in my job search, they would provide me a character reference. He also told me I was not the only one being terminated. Recently, I've noticed they've hired 6 new girls, a few of whom have connections. Business has been slow due to COVID-19. I also overheard my manager say yesterday at work that paychecks were incredibly high for this period. Was I fired due to performance or overstaffing? What can I do now? Apologies in advance if this is too out of place here, but this happened to me the other day, and I thought it was entertaining enough to share. I was in a pretty big grocery store a couple of days ago looking for a sports drink that both of my children really like. I have been keeping an eye out for it the last few weeks, but haven't been able to find it. My kids keep sending it to our family shopping list app, but I never seem to find it. I just figured that due to the Rona, it is temporarily out of stock. Even though I know exactly what the drink looks like, I couldn't remember the actual name of the product. My kids call it lizard water. So, I'm in the aisle where the drinks are supposed to be, but I still can't find them. I'm walking back and forth down the aisle, which is one way only to keep social distancing in place, so it was even more awkward, when a man, who was dressed normally, and not wearing the store uniform, asked me if he could help me find something. I just figured it was another customer, but I know that I sometimes help out in a store, so maybe it was just another nice person. I said I was drawing a blank on the actual name, but my kids call it lizard water. He immediately says the actual product name, and starts helping me look for it. When he can't find it either, he taps another man who was in the aisle, and asks if they have it. This second man, who is also not wearing a uniform, and looked nothing like an employee, says that he doesn't remember seeing it for a while, and whips out a tablet computer from his pocket and starts to search for it. The computer told him that the chain/store doesn't carry it anymore, but if I go to customer service, they would gladly special order it for me. I didn't want to take them up on it, so I started a monthly subscription to be shipped directly to my home. I just keep thinking about how nice those guys were, and that the motto of the store is perfect. Shopping is a pleasure. This happened today. I was bored in class a few days ago and began to mindlessly draw on a worksheet provided to us. I remember seeing another student draw another teacher of mine, and I guess I subconsciously began to draw my English teacher in an anime style. Cue today, I pull out the same worksheet due to our current task. She's talking and needs someone's sheet as an example, and I happen to be in the front row, in front of her desk. She grabs an sheet and lo and behold is the large anime drawing that happens to look like her in the corner of the page. She puts down my sheet and moves to another person's sheet while I wallow in embarrassment. I don't think I can look her in the eyes again. TLDR, English teacher found my drawing that happens to look like her and now I can't look at her without feeling shame. Update: for those asking for a picture of the drawing, you'll have to wait a while. I ended up leaving my worksheet at school after leaving for home, so it'll be almost a full day before I'm able to upload the image. It's nothing too busty anyway, so don't get your hopes up lol. Update 2, I'm so sorry. I forgot the keys to my locker and it's Friday, and Monday is a free day so I'm not going to be able to grab the drawing for a few days. My apologies, hopefully, the last updates will be the picture. First time here, etc. While not tech support, I spend a lot of time as pre-tech support and keep some pressure off our help desk by sitting as frontline for our sales folks. This was several years ago. A new sales production report was developed and switched from paper to digital. My industry isn't the exact front runner for technology. Memos with screenshots were sent to all the users. Nearly all the salespeople were delighted they no longer had to wait on the U.S. Postal Service to get their production totals. First week the reports were available, I get a call from one of our salespeople. SG equals sales guy. Me, how can I help? SG, I don't understand this report. Me, okay, do you have the memo? SG, I don't read those things. Me, okay, do you have your report up in front of you? SG, I can't get to that right now. Me. SG. Me, okay, if you had your report in front of you, the top left shows. I know he wanted me to just read his production numbers to him, but I was not about to start down that particular trail of dependency. There was only one of me and 700 plus of his fellow salespeople. Bonus, once had to wait 2 days for a senior exec to answer a yes/no question for a high priority project. Why? Because he felt the need to print out the email, write yes, sign it, then send it through inter-office mail. The kicker? He had once been head of our IT department. My mom was an overnight manager at a truck stop. She regularly had to deal with drunks and the obnoxious Sunday morning crowd. There was a man that came in every Sunday morning, very early. No sooner than his order would hit the window he would start yelling loudly, "Is it done yet? Where's my food?" and other rude things. The staff cringed when he walked in. My mom had enough. This particular Sunday, after a very rough Saturday night full of drunks, this man walks in with his usual crew and sits at his usual table. Just like clockwork he started yelling as soon as his ticket hit the window. Mom threw a biscuit on the plate, added a piece of cheese, raw sausage patty, then cracked an egg and added the top part of the biscuit. She took him his order personally, slammed the plate down in front of him and calmly asked him if he wanted his food now or if he wanted it cooked. He never yelled after that day. He became one of the nicest and best tipping customers. Bartender at a local pizza joint. My buddy came in after a long day dealing with his 2 sick little girls. He tells me a story from today about the littlest. She's screaming for him from the bathroom. She states she's been waiting for 60 years for him. All she wanted was a cheese pizza from our place. Since they were sick he went with something more appropriate for upset stomachs. But you can guarantee I got him a gift certificate for a cheese pizza for her when she's better. Nice to have good customers to even out the bad ones lol. I worked in housekeeping in a hotel for months up until this past week. I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. I was scheduled to work 5+ days a week, with 20+ rooms to myself. I came into work recently, because I was on the schedule, and I could barely walk. I couldn't bend my back and my ankles were hugely swollen. I had been in L&D the night before to stop contractions. We didn't have many rooms, but 5 housekeepers in-house. Everyone was almost begging my manager to send me home, as we had too many housekeepers for the amount of rooms. Now, I'm huge at this point in pregnancy. I can't bend too far forward in general. My manager and I, discussed a couple weeks ago that she didn't want me cleaning bathtubs, so I was to have another housekeeper come clean my bathtubs. No biggie, I was fine with that. Well, the day before I quit I had went to find another HK to help with a bathtub. Said manager stopped us in the hall and asked what we were doing socializing on the clock. We explained that she was going to clean a bathtub for me and would go right back to her rooms. She yelled at me and said that if I can't do my job, I need to quit so that she can hire someone who's willing to work. I explained that it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work, rather that's one small task that I myself struggle with accomplishing. She didn't care. She continued yelling at me. Now, I've always hated being yelled at, so I spent the rest of my shift crying while cleaning my rooms. I got home from work, still crying. My boyfriend became extremely upset as I told him what had happened. We decided that it's in the best interest of our child that I just be done, as it's a lot of emotional trouble as well as physical. So I gave my manager her wish, and I went in and handed in my scrubs and quit. She seemed sympathetic, said she understood, was sad to see me go, and for me to come talk to her after I was released from maternity leave. Fast forward to today, another HK at said hotel was talking to this manager, while recording the conversation to send to me. She asked if I would be back after baby. The manager told her that I was lazy and a crybaby so she would never consider hiring me back. I'm glad I quit. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I'm not sure that I'll ever be able to convince myself to work in housekeeping again. Lockdown has left me with a lot of spare time on my hands. Due to a lack of gym equipment, I've had to get creative with my workouts. Over the last several weeks, I've been trying to master the handstand push-up. It took me a good while but I finally got there. I was over the moon about it and wanted to share my achievement with someone. My mom and sister were skeptical but keen to see me attempt it. So I go to do the move and, well, I felt my junk flop out. I froze for a moment, unsure how much was on display. I looked over at my mom and sister who sat there wide-eyed. My mom burst out laughing and cheered me on, "Classy, I know," while my sister blushed and averted her eyes in disgust. You see, I had grown so used to wearing sleep shorts around the house during lockdown that I didn't even stop to think about little things like gravity and boxer briefs. Needless to say, I was deeply embarrassed by the whole ordeal. My mom found it hilarious, of course. My sister wasn't so amused. She still won't talk to me. DL, drive. I tried to show off my newly learned handstand push-up technique to my mom and sister only for my privates to fall out of my shorts. Note to self: always wear boxer briefs when performing stunts in front of family. So I work at a small office for a construction company. I have one coworker that is a grandma and due to some parental issues, she is now taking care of her two youngest granddaughters, ages 7 and 8. She doesn't really have money so she can't pay for a babysitter to watch the girls as she's working her 8 to 5 job. There is also the issue of COVID-19 right now, so having a stranger come into your house for long periods of time and be around kids is not really a good idea. Luckily, for her, the boss is okay with the girls being in the office as long as they don't bother anyone from working and be quiet. Over the time, I've slowly went from being grandma's co-worker to being a babysitter. This is how it starts. The girls did that at first, until one of their tablets broke down and stopped working. Then, they would fight over the other tablet and would whine and tattle to the closest adult there, usually me. So to stop this I brought my tablet just so that they could watch Disney+. It worked, until my tablet ran out of power. Then, whoever had that tablet would start to come up to me and say I'm bored. They bring a backpack full of colors, coloring books, toys, etc. so I know that they aren't bored, they just want a tablet. I would then have to list off things for them to do, so that I could go back to work. After a while, I've learned how my coworker has been parenting them, and when the girls do something, then I just follow what my coworker tells them to do. For example, the girls have a towel and toothbrushes and toothpaste in the girls' bathroom. They are told that they have to wash their face, hands, and teeth after eating lunch. The girls would try to get away with this and go straight back to the tablets after eating, so I would have to remind them as to subtly tell them that they can't disobey their grandma. Now, I just have to raise an eyebrow and they listen. I really was fed up with all of this, especially when my coworker and I would usually be the only ones in the office, but I didn't really say anything because I know that my coworker can't really do anything to keep them home and they are kids who need to be loud and run around and all that. But, I finally realized how much my coworker was taking advantage of me when she said, "Wow. You're the cheapest babysitter. All I have to do is just pay for your lunch." She not only said this straight to my face, but also in front of the girls who now believe that I am their babysitter. Now if there are any problems, from an untied shoe to a fight over who can get what, the girls go to me first before their grandma. Tifu, a few days ago. I flipped up via email and am still paying for it now. In my freshman year of college, I attended 3 meetings of a local chapter of a national organization. There was free pizza that I had to sign in to get, so I put down my email address and grabbed a slice. The meetings ended up being a colossal waste of time, so I stopped going. They emailed me a few times with national updates and I unsubscribed. They emailed me with local updates and I unsubscribed. I marked every email relating to this organization as spam and kept getting emails from new addresses. This went on for 6 years. I finally sent an email to the organization requesting that they manually unsubscribe me, as I had attempted it many times with no success. No response, more emails. 7 years after my last attendance, I replied to the email from last year. This time, I CC'd the vice president, secretary, and what I thought was a secondary email for the organization. The organization's new address required that I confirm the email, to prevent spam. I was seeing red that they would dare to require me to confirm that I wasn't sending them spam. 7 years. So I confirmed and went about my day. Later, there's a bunch of emails from other people who have the same problem or are current students who can't do anything about it. The new address was the listserv. The confirmation request to prevent spam was for the entire listserv. I emailed everyone. Subsequently, at least one person has added my email to a spam list. My inbox is exclusively confirmation requests for hundreds of subscriptions to Random Shoot. I can't use this email address anymore and have no idea how long it will last. TL, Doctor, I accidentally emailed the entire listserv and someone signed me up for a spam mail subscription. This happened before quarantine, but I can't stop thinking about it. Also, I live in America, so school shootings are like a staple. We were going to a poetry unit in English and my teacher spent 10 minutes at the end of class reading us horror poetry. She dislikes the English class she has after the one I'm in, so she thought it would be funny to mess with them. She had myself and another girl come back during the next class and bang on the closed door to scare them. Since it's horror poetry and you get in the mood, you don't really need much to get scared. But I'm not smart. This girl and I bent down below the little window in the door and made some noise. This girl scratched at the door, no harm. Again, I'm stupid. I had a wooden hall pass in my hand. I was like, okay, sure, I'll use this. I 100% did not need to bang a thick block of wood against a door, but I did. Multiple times. Then this girl and I quickly walked our separate ways. The problem was that this classroom that we tried to mess with is right next to the main office. As I went to walk away, I saw the staff walk out of the office and look around frantically. I was like, oh shoot, guess I can't walk that way, so I turned around and walked the other way. When I turned, I saw 2 classroom doors shut with the teachers standing out of them. They looked super worried and scanned down the halls. The class I was in originally was down this way, so I had to go past them. One of the teachers asked if I heard something and I think I said I was in the bathroom, so I didn't know what was going on. I kept walking, but I felt a huge pit of guilt in my stomach. The next day in my English class, the teacher told us that her class thought a shooting was happening when I banged on the door. She also told me that 3 other classrooms thought a shooting was happening. She also told me that the office staff were on edge the rest of the day because they too thought a shooting was happening. TLDR, I banged on a wooden door with my hall pass. That's a wooden block. The sound was similar to that of gunshots, so 4 filled classrooms and the office staff thought a shooting was happening. 20 years ago, I was a call agent for the phone company with the big magenta T. When a customer didn't pay his bill for a longer period, the transaction went to a collection company. Normally, the customer called us, and we explained that he had to wait until the collection company contacted him. Most of the customers got it, but a few threw a fit. About once a month, a customer told me, I play golf with CEO. I tell him to fire you. Poor CEO, didn't have time to do anything else but playing golf. Fun fact, my in-laws were members of a tennis club, where CEO was member as well. They told me that he didn't play golf at all. This morning I woke up and subsequently stayed in bed scrolling through my phone, avoiding the reality of the new day. Several hours passed, no breakfast, and by the time I came downstairs, my mother was home from work. I couldn't eat breakfast in front of her at this time 4 p.m. or else I would have gotten my ass majorly whooped. I then spotted a newly bought giant bag of salt and vinegar kettle chips. My mom made no comment as she assumed I was just having an evening snack. I sat on the couch, began to eat these delicious chips, watching TV in the process. Next thing I know, the roof of my mouth began to burn. I came back to the real world and gasped as I saw half the bag nearly finished. I quickly stopped eating, but it was too late. Over the next hour, the effects just got worse. The burning escalated to the point that the roof of my mouth feels like it's been skinned. My gums on the inside of my teeth feel raw and bloody. My tongue feels puffy and weird, It's been a couple hours and it still hurts so much and my mouth is still whack. I should have just eaten breakfast, man. TLDR, I zoned out while eating out of a big bag of salt and vinegar chip, realized too late that my entire mouth was basically fried.